Hi and welcome. In this video I want to explore luminosity masking. So what's that, you say? Well, luminosity masks are also known as luminance masks, and they're a way of creating really advanced selections in Photoshop based on luminosity values. Now, for example, let's say we're looking at a lovely sunset shot in Photoshop. Now, we've exposed for the foreground, so the brightest parts of the sky is going to be overexposed. But we were smart enough while we were on site to take a second darker exposure. This time we're exposing for the sunset. All we need now to do, in theory, is smoothly blend the area of the sun into the brighter exposure where that same area is blown out. Now, in Photoshop there are many ways to make selection, but in this particular example, luminosity masks allow us to select the overexposed area because it targets luminosity values, i.e. the brightness of an area, and we can smoothly blend in the darker exposure. Okay, well, it sounds pretty cool, so let's have a look at how to make them. My name's Ken Fisher and this is LiveLink Training. Now, luminosity masking gives you a way to fine-tune your image adjustments by applying adjustments to specific areas of specific brightness values, instead of us painting on the mask with a brush. And with this example here, I'm just going to show you what we can do. I've got my base image, which is a pretty flat and fairly uninteresting sort of image. But in this group up here, I've got some luminosity masks that I've made. And if I switch them on, you'll see it makes a tremendous difference. So what are these luminosity masks? Well, I'll just open that up and you can see them here. I've got 5 different adjustments and 5 different luminosity masks. What these are is allowing me to mask specific tonal ranges. And so here you can see how it works. If I look at this particular mask up here, you can see the way this works is that white is actually selected. So anything that's white on this mask will be affected by the adjustment. Anything that's black on the mask will not be affected by the adjustment. Anything that's grey in the middle, it'll be affected a little bit. And so you can see here I've got this one is not going to adjust the sky very much. It's going to adjust the middle area of the sky here, or the snow area, and it's not going to adjust the bench, and it's going to take a little bit of this snow. And this one is adjusting the bench even more, so you can be really specific in targeting your adjustments. So we'll just close that down. I'll just turn that on and off again so you can go from here to here. I think that's an amazing difference. Now, it is a pretty laborious job creating luminosity masks, but it's perfect fodder for an action. So in this video I'm going to show you how to create an action to make luminosity masks. Then you can create targeted adjustments masks on any image by just running the action. Then in the next video I'm going to show you how to use luminosity masks to edit your images in Photoshop. Okay, well, let's get started. Okay, let's dig in. Here you can see I've got a particular arrangement of my panels. I've got my channels panel and my actions panel, and I've also got my layers panel at the bottom. Now this is just so as I can see all 3 of them at the same time, really. Now we're going to be running an action, so I'll just close up my actions. I've got a set called KF Luminosity Masks, so I don't want to overwrite that. So we're going to create a new action. Now, an action can't live on its own. It gets lonely. It has to be in an action set, and an action set is just like a folder. So you can't export or import an action on its own. It has to be in an action set. So we'll create the action set first, and I do that by going and clicking on the action set button, and I'll call it LM for luminosity masks, and I'll click OK. And there we've got now an empty folder to put this action in. And we're going to create the action by going again back down to the bottom of the actions panel, and we're going to create a new action. And here we'll call this one luminosity mask as well, or LM for short. It's already selected from the drop down that it's going to go in the set called LM. And we're not bothered today at assigning function keys or colours, so I'm just going to click record. Now this little red button appears here, and this is telling you that Photoshop is watching. So we've now got to be a bit careful in everything we do. So I'll go back to the channels panel, and I'm now going to create a selection of all the highlights in the image. Now a cute keyboard shortcut to do this is I hold the control key down and I click on the RGB thumbnail. You can see here, and you can see I've got a little hand and it's got a little dotted line round it, and that's indicating that it's going to make a selection, and this is going to select what it considers to be all the highlights for me. And there we are, we've got a selection live of all the highlights in this image. So now I'm going to go and I want to create now a new channel out of it. So if I go down to bottom of the channels panel, you'll see this little symbol here. I always think it looks like a washing machine, but in fact it's a save selection as a channel. So I'm going to click on that, and it's now going to save me out a new alpha channel. It's called the alpha 1. I'm going to change that now, so I'm just going to double click on it and I'll call it Bright Swan. I'll just put a space in there, that's better. Call it Bright Swan. Okay, so I've got my first channel, my Bright Swan, and I'm going to be making 3. I'm going to be making a Brights 1, 2 and 3, and then a Darks 1, 2 and 3, and then we're going to be doing the midtones 1, 2 and 3. So we've got a full selection of all these masks to cover the majority of the tonal range. Now on these masks, anywhere that's white represents selected areas. So if we attach this to any adjustment layer, anything that's white will be affected by the adjustment. Now the blacks, they represent areas that are not selected, so they're like protected. And greys, anything grey means it's going to be partially selected and partially not selected. It's somewhere in the middle. Now I'm going to leave this selection live, and what I want to do now is create a more restrictive selection. Now to do that, I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut again. I'm going to hold the Control key, the Alt key and the Shift key down, and I'm going to click inside this Bright Swan. And you'll see that there's a little hand appears and it's got an X on, and this is an intersect from selection. So what this is going to do is create me an intersection of where the initial selection and the bright selection are common. And obviously this is going to be a smaller selection, so it's going to drill down into the tonal range for me. So if I click on that one now, I've now created a much smaller restricted selection. So I'm going to go down to Save Channels as Selection. It's called the Alpha 1 again. I'm going to rename this Brights 2. Right, and we're going to repeat the exercise again. I'm going to hold the Control, the Alt and the Shift key down to create an intersect from selection. I'm going to click on my Brights 2, and I've got an even smaller selection now, and it looks as though it's disappeared. It hasn't, it just means that there's less than 50% of any pixel edge selected. But it's still there, trust me. When we go down and we click on this icon here to save selection as a channel, it will bring us up a mask, and there it is. We've got Alpha 1 again. I'm going to rename that to Brights 3. Right, we're cooking with gas now. We've got our 3 Brights channels. So now we want to do the Darks channels. So I'm going to deselect any selections with Control and D, and then I'm going to go back up and click on the RGB thumbnail. And I'm going to do exactly the same as I did when I started. I'm going to hold the Control key down and I'm going to click on the RGB to bring me up a selection of all the highlights in the image. Now it's not the highlights that I want, it's the shadows. So what I need to do is inverse this selection, because everything that's not highlight is going to be shadows. So I'll go up to my select menu, and I can go down to the menu inverse, or I can use a keyboard shortcut of Control, Shift and I. I'm just going to click on that, and now that selection is inverse. That's now masking out all the shadows. So we'll create another mask out of this selection. I'll click on that, and we'll call this Darks 1. And then we'll repeat the exercise from before. I'm going to hold Control, Alt, Shift and click on the Darks 1. And this is going to restrict the selection a little bit more for me. I'll make another channel out of this, and we'll call this Darks 2. And then I'll do exactly the same again, Control Alt and Shift, click on the thumbnail, and I'll make another channel out of it. And this is going to be my darks 3. Okay, we've now got the brights and the darks all sorted, but what about the mid-tones? Okay, that's a little bit different. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to Control and D to deselect the selection, and I'm just going to click up on the RGB thumbnail again. Now first I want to select everything in the image, so I'm going to use Control and A, and that's going to give me a selection of everything in the image. But now what I want to do, I want to subtract the brights 1 from it and the darks 1 from it, because if I subtract all the brights and all the darks, I'll just be left with a set of mid-tones. So to do that, I'm going to hold the Control and the Alt key down, and you'll see I get a little minus sign now. So if I now click on the brights thumbnail, that subtracts that, and then I'll go down to my darks one and I'll click on that, and again it's telling me no more pixels are selected. That's fine. Click OK, and then I'll go down and I'll make a channel out of this selection now. And if we go down, we'll see it's very grey, so I'm going to call this Midtones 1. Okay, now I'll do exactly the same with the brights 2 and the darks 2. I'm going to go back up to the RGB thumbnail. I'm going to select everything, Control and A, but this time I'm going to subtract the brights 2 and the darks 2. So to subtract from selection, I'm going to hold the Control and the Alt key down, and I'm going to click on the brights 2 this time and the darks 2. Okay, then I'll go down and I'll make another channel, and this is called my Midtones 2. Okay, back up to the top to the RGB thumbnail, click on it, and then I'll deselect that selection. I'll select everything again with Control and A, but this time I'm going to subtract the brights 3 and the darks 3. So again, Control and Alt, click on brights 3 to subtract that, click on darks 3 to subtract that, and then make a channel of what's left. And here now I've got my Midtones 3. Whew, I think I need to lie down in a darkened room after this. Right, okay, we'll go back up to the RGB thumbnail and click on it. So we're back to normal now. I can deselect with Control and D, and then I can stop recording. So now I'm going to go to my Actions panel, and I'm going to go down and I'm going to click the Stop Record button, which is the square one, the Stop Playing. And there we are, we're done. Okay, let's just scroll up and have a look. That's quite a long old action we've just done there, if you've been following along with me. Let's test it out now. Now you'll see here that I've got an action set called LM, and inside that is an action called LM. Now if you want to run the action, I'm just going to click on that first name, the LM, and then when I click the run, it will start from that point and run all the action. But first, just to see if it works, let's get rid of all these channels. So all the brights down to the Midtones 3, let's select them all, and we'll drop them in the bin. So we're back to where we started now. So I'm going to go to my Actions panel, make sure that LM is selected, the action, and then click Play Selection. And I was holding my breath. Now let's have a look, see if that's run okay. We'll go back to channels, and there we have it. Look at that. Brights 1, brights 2, brights 3, darks 1, darks 2, midtones 1, midtones 2, midtones 3. Absolutely fantastic. Well, we're nearly done. One last thing is just to say that the actual action that we've just written will create all these masks, but it creates it for whichever image you're in. It's not limited to this image. So now if we go to another image, it can be anything. We'll go to this one. We'll say this could do with a little bit of correcting. As you can see, there's no channels in this one at the moment, but there's RGB and there's red, green and blue. So let's go to his actions panel and we'll go back up to Luminosity Mask and we'll run the action. And there it goes. Now we'll just have a look back in the channels panel of this image and we can see now we've got all those brights, darks and your midtones all done for this image. So you can use it on any image that you like. It is a very, very powerful tool for adjusting images with luminosity masks. Well, that's it for now. We've seen how to create ever more targeted selections in an image and saving them out as a luminosity mask. Then we created an action to save us the donkey work of creating all the masks from scratch every time. I do hope you liked it. If you did, give me a thumbs up or leave a comment under the video. Or share it with a friend or two. And please click that subscribe button at the end so when I upload a new video, you are the first to know. I'll see you in the next video where we'll be looking at how to use luminosity masks to improve our images. I'll see you then. Bye for now.